You've entered void of rules, a realm where normal constraints cease to exist. But beware, traveller, there is one rule here. You've got to hit subscribe. Seriously, it's the only rule we have. We just reached 1,000 brave souls, and we're hunting for 9,000 more to complete our dark ritual. I mean, reach our next goal, so subscribe. Or don't. But remember, the void remembers those who defy the only rule. Now let's get into today's video. The ancient Mayan temple is collapsing around me. Stone blocks crash down as I sprint through the narrow corridor, my headlamp beam dancing wildly across hieroglyphs that seem to writhe in the shifting light. Behind me, I can hear Dr. Victoria Cross screaming my name, but I can't look back. Rule 1 echoes in my mind. When the temple starts to wake up, you have 30 seconds to reach the exit. I've got 12 seconds left. My name is Nathan Reeves, and I've spent 10 years hunting the world's most dangerous treasures. Not gold or jewels, but artifacts that ancient civilizations went to extraordinary lengths to hide. There's always a reason they buried these things so deep, surrounded them with such elaborate traps. They weren't just protecting treasure from thieves. They were protecting the world from the treasure itself. 8 seconds. The corridor ahead splits into 3 passages. I know from the temple's blueprint that only the middle path leads out, but in my peripheral vision, I catch sight of something impossible. Golden light spills from the left passage, and the sound of running water where there should be only solid stone. The symbols on the walls are moving now, rearranging themselves into patterns that hurt to look at directly. 4 seconds. I choose the middle path, always stick to the plan, always follow the rules. Behind me, the temple groans like a living thing in bane. The air itself feels thick, pressing against my lungs with each desperate breath. 3, 2, 1. I dive through the temple entrance just as the entire structure implodes behind me, sealing whatever we awaken back in its stone tomb. Victoria's hand grabs mine, pulling me to safety as debris rains down around us. The jungle falls silent, as if even the insects know something unnatural just occurred. The Aztec Codex, she gasps, holding up an ornate golden cylinder. We actually found it. I stare at the artifact in her hands, feeling a familiar chill run down my spine. The Codex is warm to the touch and seems to pulse with its own inner light. Intricate carvings cover its surface, depicting scenes of astronomical events, ritual ceremonies, and something else. Figures that don't look entirely human, standing around what appears to be a doorway carved into the earth itself. This isn't over. It's just beginning. Because finding the treasure is the easy part. Surviving what comes after, that's where the rules become a matter of life and death. The flight back to civilization gives us time to examine the Codex properly. In the cramped cabin of our charter plane, Victoria spreads out her translation notes while I study the artifact's surface under a magnifying glass. The golden surface is covered in microscopic engravings, layer upon layer of text in various ancient languages. "Nathan, look at this," Victoria says, pointing to a section of her translation. "This isn't just a record of astronomical events. It's a guide. Instructions for finding something called the Veridian Cache." I lean over her shoulder, studying the cramped handwriting. Victoria has a gift for ancient languages that borders on supernatural. She can read dead scripts like others read newspapers. "The Order of the Crimson Key," she continues. "They were a secret society that operated during the height of the Ottoman Empire. According to this, they collected artifacts from around the world that were, quote, too dangerous for mortal hands," end quote. The plane hits turbulence, and the Codex slides across our makeshift workspace. As it moves, the engravings on its surface catch the cabin light differently, revealing new layers of text that weren't visible before. "There's more," Victoria says, her voice dropping to a whisper. The Codex mentions 4 primary artifacts that, when brought together, serve as a lock. a lock keeping something imprisoned. The Order scattered these artifacts across the globe after their last remaining member went insane in 1751. What drove him insane? I ask, though I'm afraid I already know the answer. Victoria's finger traces a particularly intricate passage. He claimed the artifacts were calling to each other, that they wanted to be reunited, and that something else was calling through them, something that had been waiting in the deep places of the world since before human civilization began. 3 months later, I'm standing in the converted Ottoman mansion that houses Istanbul's most exclusive auction house. The ornate halls are filled with the world's elite collectors and black market dealers. Chandeliers cast intricate shadows across faces worth more than most people's houses, and conversations in a dozen languages create a constant low murmur. I'm here because the Aztec Codex has led us to something bigger. After weeks of research, we discovered that the Codex contains a hidden map, revealed only under specific conditions during the autumn equinox. We confirmed this 3 weeks ago when Victoria exposed the artifact to filtered moonlight during the equinox. The golden surface transformed, showing detailed geographical markers pointing to locations across the globe. One of those locations is here in Istanbul, specifically pointing to an artifact that was supposed to be in the private collection of a recently deceased Ottoman scholar. That artifact is being auctioned tonight. Victoria approaches me through the crowd of bidders, elegant in her evening gown but with dirt still under her fingernails from our last dig. She's never been comfortable at these society events, preferring the honest dirt of archaeological sites to the perfumed deception of auction houses. The auction's starting, Lot 47, Ottoman navigational instruments. Our seller confirmed the Veridian compass is among them. The Veridian compass. According to the Codex map, it's the key to finding the cache's location. We've spent weeks tracking its provenance, following a trail of ownership that stretches back 3 centuries. Every previous owner met an unusual end. Not violent deaths, but strange disappearances or descent into madness. As I study the auction catalogue, something bothers me. The lot description mentions unusual magnetic properties and unpredictable behaviour in electronic equipment. Several potential buyers have withdrawn their bids after private examinations of the pieces, though no one will say why. Victoria, I say, setting down the catalogue. Before we go any further, I need to tell you about the rules. She looks at me with that expression I know well, the one that says she thinks I'm being overly cautious. But Victoria has never seen what I've seen. She's an academic, brilliant but sheltered from the darker aspects of what we do. Nathan, we've worked together for 2 years. I know you're careful about security and authentication. Not those kinds of rules, I interrupt. These are rules for survival. Rules learned through blood, terror, and the graves of treasure hunters who thought they were smarter than the ancients. I'd hoped never to need these rules with Victoria, hoped our partnership would stay focused on the safer historical artifacts, but the Codex has led us to something far more dangerous. Rule 1. The artifacts choose their owners, not the other way around. You can't force these things to work for you. Try to take them by strength or deception, and they'll turn on you. The artifacts respond to intent, to respect, to understanding. Grave robbers die quickly and messily. Scholars sometimes survive, but only if they approach with the right mindset. Victoria nods, though I can see skepticism in her eyes. She thinks I'm being metaphorical. Rule 2. Never activate an artifact without understanding its full purpose. Ancient civilizations didn't create instruction manuals. Every artifact has a primary function and a dozen hidden ones. That golden cup might grant visions of the future, but it might also mark you for tracking by things that hunt in dimensions parallel to our own. I've seen men driven mad by touching objects they didn't understand, and women vanish entirely when artifacts transported them to places that shouldn't exist. Rule 3. The number 4 is sacred in most ancient cultures. Never gather more than 3 artifacts in one location. I learned this the hard way in Tibet. 3 items create harmony, balance, resonance that enhances their individual properties. 4 creates something else entirely, a resonance that tears holes in reality. I watched 4 expedition members get pulled into somewhere else when we brought together 4 pieces of a Tibetan prayer wheel. They didn't die, they just stopped existing in our reality. Victoria's expression has grown more serious. She's starting to understand that I'm not speaking in metaphors. Rule 4. If the artifacts start showing you visions of the same place repeatedly, you must go there immediately. The visions aren't just images, they're warnings, invitations, or calls for help. Ignore them, and the visions get stronger, more invasive. Keep ignoring them, and they start bleeding into reality around you. I once knew a collector who ignored the visions from a Sumerian tablet for 6 months. By the end, his entire house had transformed into a recreation of ancient Babylon. Neighbours found him sitting in what used to be his living room, speaking fluent Akkadian to people only he could see. The auction begins, and we take our seats in the back. The Veridian compass is lot 47, but we sit through 46 previous lots, watching as paintings, jewellery and manuscripts change hands for enormous sums. Each sale is a small drama of desire, ego and wealth. When lot 47 is brought out, the energy in the room changes. The compass sits on a velvet cushion, looking innocuous enough. Bronze and silver casing covered in intricate engravings, about the size of a dinner plate. But I notice things others miss. The way the auctioneer's hand shakes slightly as he holds it. The fact that the spotlights aimed at it seem dimmer than they should be. And most telling of all, the electronic bidding paddles in the front row are flickering erratically. The bidding starts at 50,000 Turkish lira and quickly escalates. Private collectors, museum representatives and dealers I recognize from previous auctions drive the price higher and higher. But as the bidding progresses, I notice bidders dropping out without explanation. A museum representative suddenly pales and shakes his head. A private collector who never loses an auction stares at the compass for a moment, then gets up and leaves the room entirely. By the time the bidding reaches 800,000 lira, only 3 bidders remain. Victoria and I are not among them. We're here for a different purpose entirely. The compass is more active than I expected, Victoria whispers. Look at the needle. She's right. Even from our distance, I can see that the compass needle is spinning slowly but continuously. Not pointing north, not pointing anywhere specific, just moving in a steady rotation that shouldn't be possible in a mechanical device. The auction ends with the compass selling to a private collector for 1.2 million lira. But as the winning bidder approaches to claim his prize, something extraordinary happens. The compass needle suddenly stops spinning and points directly at him. The man freezes, staring at the artifact, and for a moment I swear I see fear cross his face. Then he smiles, a strange, distant expression, and reaches for the compass with trembling hands. Now, I whisper to Victoria, we move now. The auction house's security is state-of-the-art, but they're protecting against normal thieves. Not treasure hunters who understand how ancient artifacts interact with modern technology. Victoria and I have spent weeks planning this. Not to steal the compass, but to examine it properly before it disappears into some private collector's vault forever. We've learned that the buyer is Willem van den Berg, a Dutch industrialist, known for his eccentric collecting habits. His security team will transport the compass to his hotel tonight, but first, it will spend 2 hours in the auction house's secure storage area while paperwork is finalized. Using a combination of Victoria's archaeological credentials and some carefully placed bribes, we've arranged access to the storage area. The cover story is simple. Victoria claims to need photographs of the compass's engravings for her research on Ottoman navigational instruments. The storage area is in the mansion's basement, a series of climate-controlled rooms where tomorrow's auction lots are kept. A security guard escorts us to the room, checks our credentials one more time, and leaves us alone with the compass. The moment the door closes, I feel it. The artifact's presence fills the room like a low electromagnetic hum. The hair on my arm stands up and my watch stops ticking. God in heaven, Victoria breathes, approaching the compass. Nathan, this is incredible. The compass sits in its case, but something has changed. The bronze and silver surface now shows engravings that weren't visible during the auction. Intricate astronomical charts overlay the navigational markings, and symbols that shift and change depending on viewing angle cover every available space. But it's the needle that captures my attention. Instead of the steady rotation we observed during the auction, it now points steadily southeast. I move around the case, turning it, even lifting it slightly, but the needle never wavers. Southeast, with absolute certainty. Victoria, look at the case itself. She kneels beside the wooden storage case and gasps. Inside the lid, tucked into silk-lined compartments, are additional items that weren't mentioned in the auction catalogue. A leather journal bound in what looks like human skin, and a small crystal vial filled with liquid mercury that seems to move independently of the vial's motion. Victoria opens the journal carefully. The pages are covered in Ottoman Turkish written in multiple hands, suggesting several authors over a long period. Detailed drawings fill every available space, and what I see makes my stomach clench with recognition. Nathan, Victoria whispers urgently, these are maps, and they all show the same location. She's right. Page after page shows the same mountain range drawn from the same perspective. The draftsmanship varies, suggesting different artists, but the geographical features are identical. Rolling hills crowned with distinctive rock formations, all surrounding a central valley that appears to be artificially circular. At the bottom of each page, coordinates are written repeatedly in different handwritings, as if multiple people felt compelled to record the location: 39.7817 degrees N, 30.5018 degrees E. Central Turkey, I say, feeling pieces fall into place. The Cappadocia region, known for its underground cities and volcanic rock formations. Victoria turns to the journal's final entries and her face goes pale. Nathan, listen to this. It's dated December 15th, 1751. She begins translating from the Ottoman Turkish. The compass calls to me nightly now. In my dreams, I walk through corridors carved from living rock, following its needle deeper into the earth. The other three artifacts sing in harmony with it, creating music that draws me ever closer to the chamber where they wait. I fear I will not resist much longer. The scholars of the order were wrong. We did not lock away the guardian of the deep roads. We merely separated the keys that keep it sleeping. She looks up at me. There's more. Personal accounts from other compass owners over the centuries. They all describe the same dreams, the same visions, and they all eventually set out for the same coordinates in Cappadocia. What happened to them? They disappeared. Every single one. Suddenly the compass goes wild. The needle spins frantically like a thing possessed, and I can feel heat radiating from the bronze casing. Both Victoria and I step back instinctively as the crystal vial begins to glow with a soft blue light that pulses in rhythm with our heartbeats. The temperature in the room drops noticeably. Our breath begins to mist, and frost forms on the metal surfaces of the storage shelves around us. We need to go, I say, but Victoria seems transfixed by the compass. Nathan, it's showing us something. The air above the compass shimmers like heat waves, but cold instead of warm. For just a moment, I see a vision so clear, it might be a window into another place. An underground city carved from volcanic rock, its chambers filled with pedestals holding artifacts from a dozen different civilizations. Egyptian canopic jars sit beside Mayan jade masks. Sumerian tablets rest next to elaborate Chinese jade carvings. And at the center of the vision, a circular chamber with 4 pedestals arranged in a perfect square. 3 of the pedestals hold artifacts that glow with their own inner light. The 4th is empty, clearly waiting. The vision fades. The compass goes dead cold, its needle pointing motionless to the southeast. The crystal vial's glow fades to nothing, and the room's temperature returns to normal. But I can still feel the presence of whatever we just glimpsed, like a weight pressing against the back of my mind. "Rule 4, I whisper. "It's calling us to Cappadocia." Victoria carefully photographs the journal's pages while I document the compass's engravings. We work quickly but thoroughly, both of us feeling the pressure of time and the growing certainty that we've stumbled onto something far bigger than a simple archaeological treasure hunt. As we prepare to leave, Victoria picks up the crystal vial, hefting it thoughtfully. "Nathan, what if the Order of the Crimson Key weren't the villains in this story? What if they were trying to prevent something terrible from happening?" "What do you mean?" "Think about it. They collected dangerous artifacts from around the world and separated them. They didn't destroy them, which suggests the artifacts might be indestructible, but they made sure they could never be brought together. Maybe the Guardian of the Deep Roads isn't something they summoned. Maybe it's something they imprisoned." The security guard returns to escort us out, and we package up our equipment with the professional efficiency of people who've done this hundreds of times. But as we walk through the auction house's ornate hallways, I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. Not by security cameras or human eyes, but by something older and far more patient. Back in our hotel room, Victoria spreads out detailed maps of the Cappadocia region, while I research travel logistics. The coordinates from the journal point to an area roughly 30 kilometers south of the tourist town of Urgup, in a region known for its underground cities and cave churches. "The nearest underground city on the official maps is Derinkuyu," Victoria says, tracing routes with her finger. "But according to geological surveys, there are dozens of unmapped cave systems in that area. The volcanic rock makes it perfect for excavation, and the early Christians built entire cities underground to hide from persecution." I'm studying satellite imagery on my laptop when something catches my attention. "Victoria, look at this." The satellite photos show the circular valley from the journal drawings, but there's something the medieval artists couldn't have known. From above, the entire geological formation looks artificial. The hills surrounding the central valley form a perfect spiral, and at the exact center, there's a slight depression that suggests a large underground space. "It's a lock," she says suddenly. "The entire geographical formation. The hills channel underground water in a specific pattern, creating natural acoustic resonance chambers. And if you wanted to hide something deep underground while ensuring it could never be reached accidentally, you'd put it in the center of a spiral formation that guides people away from the actual entrance," I finish. "But how do we find the real entrance?" Victoria holds up a photograph of the compass's surface. Under magnification, the astronomical engravings show not just star positions but seasonal variations. One configuration shows alignment during the winter solstice, with lines pointing to specific features in the surrounding terrain. "The compass isn't just showing us where to go," she says. "It's showing us when. The winter solstice is in 3 weeks. That's when the astronomical alignments will match the compass's markings exactly." 10 days later, we're in Urgup, Turkey, organizing an expedition that officially doesn't exist. Victoria's university credentials have gotten us archaeological permits for the general region, but what we're planning goes far beyond any official survey. Our base of operations is a small hotel overlooking the fairy chimneys of Cappadocia. From our window, we can see the distinctive rock formations that have made the region famous. Towering spires of volcanic rock topped with harder stone caps, shaped by millions of years of erosion into forms that look almost architectural. We've assembled a small team: Marcus Delacroix, a French cave explorer with experience in deep underground systems; Elena Vasquez, a technical climber and rope access specialist; Dr. James Whitmore, a geologist whose specialty is underground water systems and cave acoustics. Each has been carefully chosen, not just for their expertise, but for their discretion and their ability to keep secrets. None of them know the full truth about what we're looking for. As far as they're concerned, this is a search for an undiscovered chamber system that might contain Byzantine religious artifacts. Victoria and I have agreed that the fewer people who know about the Order of the Crimson Key and the Veridian Cache, the better. The Veridian compass travels with us in a specially designed case that blocks electromagnetic interference. Even so, its influence is noticeable. Electronic equipment malfunctions around it. GPS devices give incorrect readings. And every night, I dream of walking through underground corridors, following the compass's needle deeper into the earth. Victoria is experiencing the same dreams, though we don't discuss them in front of the team. In the dreams, we're not alone. Other figures walk the corridors with us. People from different time periods, all carrying the compass, all drawn to the same destination. The dreams feel less like sleep and more like shared memories. Our first week in Cappadocia is spent in careful reconnaissance. Using ground-penetrating radar and seismic equipment, Dr. Whitmore maps the underground structures in our target area. What he finds defies explanation. The underground systems here are far more extensive than any previously discovered. More importantly, they're clearly artificial, with regular geometric patterns that suggest deliberate planning rather than natural formation. "I've never seen anything like this," Whitmore tells us over dinner on our 7th night. The acoustic properties alone are remarkable. The entire underground system seems designed to channel sound waves in specific patterns, and the water flow, it's completely artificial. Someone diverted underground streams to create a series of resonance chambers. Eleanor has been exploring the known cave systems, pushing deeper than any official surveys. "There are passages that keep going down," she reports, "way down, and some of the corridors connect to chambers that don't appear on any maps. I found evidence of tool marks on the walls. Not modern tools, not even medieval. Something older." Marcus has been using his cave diving expertise to explore the underground water systems. "The water table here is completely manipulated," he says. "Natural springs have been diverted through carved channels into artificial reservoirs. And there's something else. Sound travels through the water in ways that shouldn't be possible. Sometimes I hear voices, or music, coming from directions where I know there are no other people." The winter solstice is 3 days away when we finally locate what we believe is the entrance to the true Veridian Cache. Following the compass's astronomical markings, we've identified a specific location where geological features align with stellar positions. It's not dramatic, just a slight depression in the ground surrounded by weathered rock formations. But when Victoria brings the compass near the location, its behavior changes dramatically. The needle spins wildly for a moment, then locks onto a bearing that points straight down. And that's when we see it, carved into the weathered rock, barely visible. Unless you know exactly where to look, is a symbol that matches those in the journal. The Order of the Crimson Key's mark. We begin excavation at dawn on December 20th, the day before the winter solstice. What we uncover in the first hours of digging surpasses our wildest expectations. Just 3 feet beneath the surface, we find worked stone. Not just any stone, but perfectly fitted blocks that show no signs of mortar or joining techniques recognizable to modern archaeology. As we clear more of the surface, a pattern emerges, We're standing on top of a perfectly circular stone platform, about 30 feet in diameter. At its centre, a spiral staircase descends into darkness. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Each step is carved from a single piece of volcanic rock, and the spiral descends in a precise geometric progression that makes my eyes water to follow. "The angles are wrong," Dr. Whitmore observes, running his hands along the carved walls. "This staircase descends at an impossible pitch. According to my measurements, we should have reached the bottom by now, but my rope shows we've descended over 200 feet, and it's still going down." Victoria consults the compass at regular intervals as we descend. With each level deeper, its needle points more directly downward, and the bronze casing grows warmer to the touch. We're getting close to something. The staircase finally ends at a circular chamber carved from living rock. Our lights reveal passages leading off in multiple directions, but Victoria doesn't hesitate. She follows the compass's needle through a specific archway, and we find ourselves in a corridor unlike anything in the upper levels. This passage is older. The carved symbols on the walls aren't Ottoman or Byzantine. They're older still, predating known civilizations, and they're warnings. Victoria translates as we walk. "Turn back, children of the sun. The deep roads are not for mortal feet." 4 keys unlock the door that should remain sealed. The guardian sleeps but waits. The corridor opens into a vast circular chamber that makes our lights seem like candle flames. High above us, we can just make out a domed ceiling covered in astronomical carvings. The chamber's walls are lined with alcoves, each containing artifacts from civilizations spanning thousands of years and continents. Egyptian sarcophagi stand beside Mayan stelae. Norse runestones rest next to Chinese jade screens. Artifacts from cultures that, according to conventional history, never had contact with each other, all carefully arranged in this impossible underground museum. But our attention is immediately drawn to the chamber's centre, where 4 pedestals rise from the floor in a perfect square formation. 3 of them hold artifacts that seem to generate their own light. A crystal skull with patterns of light moving through its transparent structure like living constellations. An ornate Sanskrit prayer wheel that spins continuously without any external force, carved with mantras that seem to shift and change as we watch. A golden scarab the size of a dinner plate, covered in hieroglyphs that move across its surface like writing itself. The 4th pedestal stands empty, waiting. "My God," Victoria breathes. "This is it, the Veridian Cache." But as I study the scene more carefully, unease grows in my stomach. "Victoria, look at the walls around the pedestals." The chamber walls here are covered in warning symbols from dozens of different cultures. Egyptian hieroglyphs warning of the afterlife's guardians. Sumerian cuneiform describing entities that dwell between worlds. Mayan glyphs depicting cosmic cycles of destruction and renewal. Chinese characters warning of dragons that sleep beneath the earth. All different languages, all different cultures, all saying the same thing. Do not wake what sleeps below. Rule 3, I say urgently, never gather more than 3 artifacts in one location. But Victoria is already approaching the empty pedestal, the Veridian compass cradled in her hands. "Nathan, this is the find of the century. These artifacts represent connections between civilizations that scholars thought never existed. This could rewrite human history." "The warnings, Victoria. Look at the warnings." She pauses, studying the symbols around us, but I can see the hunger in her eyes. The same hunger that drives all of us who hunt the world's lost treasures. The need to know, to discover, to be the first to unlock ancient secrets. "They're just superstitions," she says. "Ancient people didn't understand what they were dealing with, so they created myths to explain what they couldn't comprehend. These artifacts are incredibly advanced examples of ancient technology, but they're not magical. They're not supernatural." She sets the compass on the 4th pedestal. The moment the Veridian compass touches the stone, everything changes. The chamber transforms around us, walls becoming transparent to reveal that we're not in a simple underground room, but in a vast complex that extends in directions that hurt to contemplate. The space around us seems to fold and unfold, showing glimpses of corridors, chambers, and spaces that exist in dimensions I don't have words for. The 4 pedestals rise from the floor, lifting the artifacts higher into the chamber's center. As they ascend, the artifacts begin to resonate together, creating harmonies that I feel in my bones rather than hear with my ears. The crystal skull's internal patterns accelerate until they're flowing like rivers of light. The prayer wheel spins faster, its carved mantras blurring into streams of symbols. The golden scarab's hieroglyphs race across its surface in frantic spirals, and the Veridian compass needle spins so rapidly it becomes a blur of bronze. That's when the visions begin. I see the true history of the Veridian Cache. Ancient priests from civilizations separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles, all somehow working together to contain something that threatened reality itself. I see the Order of the Crimson Key, not as treasure hunters or cultists, but as the latest in a long line of guardians, tasked with keeping 4 specific artifacts separated. The artifacts aren't treasures, they're keys. Keys to a lock that holds something imprisoned in the spaces between dimensions. Something that has been waiting for over 1,000 years, for someone to gather the 4 keys in one place. "Victoria!" I shout over the growing harmonic resonance. "We have to separate them, now!" But when I turn to look at her, Victoria is no longer Victoria. She stands between the pedestals, her feet barely touching the ground, her eyes reflecting the light from the 4 artifacts. When she speaks, her voice carries harmonics that shouldn't be possible from a human throat. She speaks in languages that died before human civilization began. "The door opens," she says in perfectly accented Sumerian. "The pathways converge. The guardian of the deep roads wakes from its slumber between the worlds. The long exile ends," she continues in ancient Egyptian. "The children of the outer darkness return to the warm places of the earth." "The cycle completes," she finishes in a language I don't recognize, though somehow I understand every word. "What was separated shall be joined. What was locked away shall be freed." The chamber floor begins to crack beneath us. Through the growing fissures, I can see something moving in the depths below. Something vast and ancient that has been waiting in the dark spaces between realities for this moment. The guardian of the deep roads isn't just a creature. It's a living gateway, an entity that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its presence allows other things to cross over from whatever realm has held them prisoner for millennia. Through the cracks in reality, I catch glimpses of a city that shouldn't exist. Architecture that bends geometry into impossible angles. Streets that exist in multiple dimensions at once. And figures moving through that space no longer entirely human, but not yet something else. Victoria falls into the growing chasm, but she doesn't fall down. She falls sideways, into another direction entirely, still clutching the crystal skull. As she disappears into that impossible space, I hear her voice one last time, speaking in her own voice, but from somewhere infinitely far away. "Nathan! The artifacts choose their guardians. The cycle must complete. Find the others before they gather the remaining sets." I understand with horrible clarity what she means. The Veridian Cache isn't the only one. Across the world, there are other secret repositories where dangerous artifacts have been hidden. Other sets of keys that open other locks. And now that this set has been activated, all the others are calling to each other across dimensions. Below me, something vast and tentacular rises from depths that extend beyond the physical world. The guardian of the deep roads. Its form shifts between dimensions, making it impossible to focus on directly. Eyes like collapsed stars regard me with alien intelligence. When it speaks, its voice comes from everywhere and nowhere, reverberating through dimensions I don't have senses to perceive. "Seeker of hidden things," it says in a voice like the collapse of civilizations. The compact is broken, the barriers weaken, the deep roads open once more. Will you serve as herald of our return, or shall you join the eternal guardians who watch from the spaces between? I have one chance. Rule 1 echoes in my mind. The artifacts choose their owners, but there's more to it than I ever understood. The artifacts don't just choose who can use them, they choose who can be trusted with them. I grab for the Veridian compass as the pedestal tilts towards the growing chasm. The bronze surface burns my hands, but I hold on and focus all my will on a single thought. Not ownership, not possession, but understanding. I don't want to control you, I tell the compass. I want to help you complete your true purpose. The compass grows warm in my hands, and suddenly I see. Really see. The chamber isn't falling apart. It's restructuring itself. The pedestals aren't being destroyed. They're descending into the depths, carrying the artifacts back where they belong, back to their eternal watch over the Guardian's prison. The artifacts were never meant to be kept apart forever. They were meant to be brought together, but only here, in this specific chamber, where their combined resonance doesn't open the lock, but strengthens it. The Order of the Crimson Key didn't scatter them to keep them separated. They scattered them to ensure that when the time came, only someone worthy could bring them back. Someone who understood that some doors should stay closed. Someone who valued guardianship over ownership. I make the hardest choice of my life. Instead of trying to save the artifacts, instead of trying to claim the greatest treasure any hunter has ever found, I help them return to their purpose. I place the Veridian compass back on its pedestal as the platform begins its descent into the depths. The 4 artifacts descend together into the spaces between worlds, carrying their harmonized resonance back to the prison where the Guardian waits. As they sink into dimensions beyond human reach, their combined light creates a new lock, stronger than before, more permanent. The Guardian's tentacular form writhes in frustration as the prison seals around it once more. Its voice echoes through collapsing reality. This victory is temporary, Guardian. Others will come. Other treasure hunters will seek the remaining caches. The compact weakens with each passing age. We are patient. We are eternal. We will be free. Victoria is gone. Not dead, but transformed. Translated into that impossible city that exists between dimensions. As the chamber seals itself around us, I catch one last glimpse of her through the closing rift. She stands in a plaza of impossible architecture, no longer fully human, but not entirely lost either. She waves to me from that distant place, and somehow I understand. She has become a guardian herself, watching over the lock from the inside, ensuring that the Guardian remains imprisoned. The chamber collapses, but not destructively. The ancient mechanisms built into this place guide the collapse, sealing passages, filling chambers with rubble that will require centuries to clear. I escape through passages that exist only long enough for me to traverse them, following exit routes that the chamber's architects planned for this exact scenario. I reach the surface as the winter solstice sun rises above the Cappadocia landscape. Behind me, the earth settles with finality. The entrance to the Veridian Cache is gone, sealed beneath tons of volcanic rock and geological instability that will deter explorers for generations. When the rescue teams find me 3 days later, I tell them about a cave-in during unauthorized exploration. The authorities mark the deep levels of the underground systems as unstable and seal them permanently. The official report states that Dr. Victoria Cross and the other team members died in a tragic accident during an illegal excavation. I'm the only one who knows the truth, that Victoria chose understanding over ignorance and paid the ultimate price for it. That Marcus, Elena, and Dr. Whitmore weren't just killed in a cave-in. They were taken by the Guardian's influence, transformed into something between human and whatever dwells in those impossible spaces. In the weeks following my return, I tried to resume normal life, but normal doesn't exist anymore. The dreams never stop. Every night I walk through corridors that exist between dimensions, following Victoria's voice as she shows me things I was never meant to see. Other caches, other sets of artifacts, other guardians who have failed in their duty over the centuries. The cache in Romania, hidden beneath the Carpathian Mountains, where 4 volcanic glass mirrors show visions of possible futures. 3 have been found. The 4th sleeps in the private collection of a billionaire who doesn't understand what he owns. The cache in Peru secreted away in a chamber behind Machu Picchu, where 4 golden discs can alter the flow of time itself. 2 were looted during the Spanish conquest. 1 resides in the Vatican's secret archives. The 4th was recently purchased by a tech mogul who believes it's an interesting example of Incan astronomy. The cache in Cambodia, buried deep beneath Angkor Wat, where 4 jade tablets contain the true names of entities that ruled the world before humanity existed. All 4 tablets are accounted for, scattered across private collections and museums, their owners drawn to them but not yet understanding their significance. And there are others, dozens of others, hidden caches where previous civilizations imprisoned things that threaten the very fabric of reality, each cache secured by artifacts that serve as both locks and keys, depending on how they're used. Victoria's voice reaches me across dimensions during the darkest hours of night. In my dreams, she stands in that impossible city, warning me of gathering storms. The guardian of the deep roads may be imprisoned again, but its brief awakening has sent ripples across the dimensional barriers. Other guardians stir in their prisons. Other caches call out to those who might gather their keys. And people are listening. Treasure hunters, collectors, scholars, each drawn by dreams and visions they don't understand. Each thinking they've discovered something unique, not realizing they're part of a pattern that has repeated for millennia. 6 months after Cappadocia, I receive an email that makes my blood run cold. The sender is Willem van den Berg, the Dutch collector who bought the Veridian compass at auction. The message is brief. Mr. Reeves, I believe we have matters to discuss. I'm assembling a collection of particular significance, and your expertise in ancient civilizations would be invaluable. I've recently acquired 3 items that I believe will interest you greatly. Volcanic glass from Romania, jade from Cambodia, gold from Peru. Perhaps you recognize the significance of these materials. I await your response. The work must not be delayed. I delete the email immediately and destroy the hard drive. But it's too late. Just reading those words has consequences. That night, the dreams are stronger than ever. I see Van den Berg in his Dutch mansion standing before display cases that hold artifacts from 3 different caches. As I watch in horror, the objects begin to resonate with each other across the vast distances that separate their original resting places. The next morning, I make a decision that will define the rest of my life. I will not be a treasure hunter anymore. I will be something else. A guardian, a keeper of dangerous knowledge. Someone who ensures that the ancient locks remain locked. I liquidate my assets, sell everything I own, and create a new identity. Nathan Reeves dies in a climbing accident in Switzerland. The man who takes his place has no name, no history, no official existence. He has only a purpose: to find the scattered artifacts before others can gather them. My first target is Van den Berg. It takes 3 months of careful planning, but I eventually infiltrate his mansion during a gala celebrating his latest acquisitions. He's assembled quite a collection. The volcanic glass mirror from Romania sits in a place of honor, showing distorted reflections that shouldn't be possible. The Cambodian jade tablet rests on a pedestal, its surface crawling with symbols that rearrange themselves when no one is looking directly at them, and the Peruvian golden disc hangs on his wall, its surface depicting astronomical events that haven't happened yet. But as I move through the mansion, I realize I'm not the only uninvited guest. Other figures move through the shadows, people who don't belong at a society gala, people whose eyes reflect light in ways human eyes shouldn't. Vanderberg isn't just a collector anymore. He's become a conduit. The 3 artifacts in his possession have changed him, connected him to something vast and patient and utterly inhuman. When I finally confront him in his private study, he turns to me with a smile that extends too far across his face. "Mr. Reeves," he says in a voice that carries harmonics I remember from the Veridian Cache. Or should I say, Guardian? "You arrive precisely when expected. The calculations are nearly complete. Soon the 3 shall become 4, and another lock shall open to reveal the wonders that wait beyond." On his desk I see papers covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Astronomical calculations predicting celestial alignments, geographic surveys marking locations across the globe, and at the center of it all, a photograph that makes my heart stop. It's Victoria. Not as she appeared in life, but as she is now. Standing in that impossible city, gesturing towards something beyond the frame of the image. Her mouth is open, as if speaking, and somehow I can hear her voice. "Tell him the 4th artifact is already here. Tell him the Guardian remembers. Tell him the deep roads call to all who have walked them." Vanderberg follows my gaze to the photograph, and his smile becomes something that belongs on no human face. "She speaks truth, Guardian. The 4th artifact is indeed here. You carry it with you always now. Your exposure to the Veridian Cache has changed you, made you into a living key. All we require is your willing participation in the final gathering." Around the room, the other figures I glimpsed earlier step out of the shadows. They were once human, like Vanderberg, like the others who came before. Now they're something else, servants of the entities that wait in the spaces between worlds. I have perhaps 30 seconds before they overwhelm me, 30 seconds to prevent another catastrophe like Cappadocia. I think of Victoria, transformed but still fighting from within the Guardian's prison. I think of the rules that have kept me alive through a decade of dangerous expeditions. And I remember a 5th rule, one I never told Victoria because I hoped I'd never need it. Rule 5. Sometimes the only way to keep the door closed is to become part of the lock yourself. I grabbed the 3 artifacts simultaneously, channeling every lesson I learned in that chamber beneath Cappadocia. Instead of trying to resist their influence, I accept it. Instead of fighting the transformation, I guide it. The volcanic glass mirror shows me the future, Vanderberg's plan succeeding, reality unraveling as forgotten entities return to remake the world in their image. The Cambodian jade tablet whispers the true names of things that should never be spoken. The Peruvian golden disc offers me power over time itself. I reject them all. "I am not your key," I tell the assembled entities. "I am your lock." The artifacts burn in my hands as I pour all my will into a single purpose. Not to use their power, but to contain it. Not to open doors, but to seal them permanently. Around me, Vanderberg and his transformed servants scream in harmony as the dimensional barriers I'm reinforcing cut them off from their masters. The mansion begins to collapse, but not from any physical force. Reality itself is restructuring around us, creating a pocket dimension where the 3 artifacts can be held in eternal stasis. Like Victoria before me, I feel myself changing, becoming something more and less than human. As the walls close in and the room folds into impossible geometries, I see Vanderberg one last time. The transformation that was claiming him reverses, leaving him human again but broken, his mind shattered by contact with forces no mortal was meant to experience. He'll survive, but he'll remember nothing. The artifacts will be gone, sealed away in a space that exists between spaces, and I'll be with them, standing eternal watch to ensure they never threaten reality again. But this isn't the end. It's just one battle in a war that has raged for millennia. Across the world, other caches wait. Other sets of artifacts call out to those who might gather them. Other guardians prepare to make the ultimate sacrifice. In my final moment before the transformation completes, I think of all the treasure hunters who will come after me. Young archaeologists driven by curiosity and ambition. Collectors seduced by the promise of ancient wonders. Scholars convinced they can solve the mysteries that destroyed their predecessors. To them, wherever they are, whatever dangers they face in the dark places of the world, I offer this warning. Some doors should stay closed. Some treasures are meant to remain lost. And some rules exist because countless people died, learning why they were necessary. The 4 rules I followed saved my life for 10 years. But in the end, it was the 5th rule that saved something far more important. Not just my life, but the world itself. I work as a treasure hunter. I had 4 rules to survive. I broke Rule 3, and Victoria paid the price. I followed Rule 5, and became part of the eternal guard that keeps the deepest treasures locked away from those who would misuse them. Somewhere in the spaces between dimensions, in chambers that exist in the gaps between reality, I stand watch. With Victoria, with others who came before, with those who will come after. All of us united in a single purpose, to ensure that the doors we opened in our arrogance remain forever closed. And in my dreams, when the barriers are thin and the ancient things stir in their prisons, I hear new voices, new treasure hunters following new maps to new dangers. I try to warn them, to whisper the rules across the dimensional divide. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they learn, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, when greed and curiosity overcome wisdom and caution, new guardians join our eternal vigil. The cycle continues. The watch never ends, and the deepest treasures remain safely buried in the dark places where they belong.